on the day of my 18th birthday, I went to MEPS, swore in, and it was a done deal. And
all right, so how's it going, everybody? We are in the beginning days of April. I am Joshua Hernandez, your friendly local virtual Army recruiter. I love meeting new people in the Army, part of why I like doing what I do. And I happen to have met someone very special here, Miss Jasmyn. All right, she is a 13th Fox, which is a fire control specialist. And she's got a lot of things going on in her life. And I think it's gonna be something pretty interesting. I'm really eager to hear her story and go all the way through it. So without further ado, Miss Jasmyn, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
hello, everybody. My name is Jasmyn Marquez. I'm an E5 in the United States Army. Right now, I'm currently going to school to become a nurse, and I couldn't ask for a better situation.
Awesome. So guide us through your story a little bit. Tell us about, where'd you grow up? What kind of upbringing was that? What led you to the Army? Were you always thinking military, or how did that go out?
Okay, so I was in high school, and I was playing soccer for a local club. And at the time, I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to go to dance school. And one of the dads on the soccer team, he showed me a video of an Apache helicopter in all of its glory. And he was in the Army, and he was a 13 or a 15 Foxtrot, so he worked on Apache helicopters, and I was sold. From that moment, I was like, oh, I've got to be in the Army. Like, this is it for me. Decision made. And so kind of what led also into the Army was definitely my upbringing. My dad was in the Navy, and he was a jet pilot. And so
That's cool.
I already participated in cleaning drills and hospital bed corners, and yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And so I think it just kind of went hand in hand eventually. And so I was 17 years old, and my mom had a conniption and wouldn't sign for me. So on the day of my 18th birthday, I went to MEPS, swore in, and it was a done deal. I mean, it all worked out. I mean, my mom's a cop. My dad is now a police officer. So it kind of also pushed me in that direction. I didn't want to be a cop and everybody say everything I got was from my dad, So I decided to one-up everybody and join the Army. And luckily for me, the year I joined, field artillery had just opened to women. And so they got me with the Pioneer for Women's sentence. And after that, I was like, okay, never mind. I can't do aviation. I have to pioneer field artillery for women. And so there I was, stranded in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, home of the field artillery. Cool. And I haven't regretted it since. I mean, I learned so much. I made a lot of friends, a lot of memories. And I couldn't have made a better decision, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. Shoot, I don't think we need to say anymore. Let's just wrap it up. No, I'm just kidding. That's some legit stuff. So on your 18th birthday, that's so cool. That is so cool. So when it first opened up, so we're talking what, 2014-ish? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Yep. Wow. Okay. Wow. I've been in recruiting a long time. Okay. That's good stuff. So you join 13 Juliet, right? You're at Fort Sill. What's your first duty location? Was it there at Sill?
No, actually, thank goodness. But I don't love Fort Sill, Oklahoma, everybody.
Right. Yeah, if you're at Fort Sill, you're still cool.
Yeah. So my first duty location was actually supposed to be Korea. However, I was married. And so the Army policy, you have to be within so many miles of your spouse. And so I ended up at Fort Hood, Texas. That was my first installation. And yeah, that was fun. I love Fort Hood. A lot of great training there. Probably some of the best medical training I've ever gotten, though. Yeah. I can say that. There was amazing medical training there. So I'm CLS qualified, I think, for the rest of my life at this point with how many classes we did. But at Fort Hood, there was a lot to do in the area. It's the great place. Can't go anywhere better. So that was my first installation.
Okay, right on. So how did you meet your husband?
I met my husband through my recruiter. it was actually my recruiter's son.
Oh.
I had gone in. I was 17 years old when I finally started stepping into the office and making the connection. You know what I mean? Because I was nervous and I didn't know how to tell my mom. And so I had gone to that recruiting office, I want to say maybe twice a week for like 6 months. And my recruiter goes, "Hey, do you know who this is?" And I was like, "No, I don't know who that is." And he goes, "Oh, it's my son. He goes to Cibola." He just figured because I lived on that side of town, I would have known.
Right.
I said, "No." And long story short, I ended up befriending him on Facebook. And after that, it was a love story. We together since.
Yeah.
That's how I met him.
That's awesome. That's legit. That's cool. That's cool. So, what was you've been in now for what, about 5-ish years or so?
Yeah,
right?
going on.
Okay. So did you enter the Army? You entered at what rank?
I entered at E nothing. I was an E fuzzy.
No
Yes,
kidding.
there was nothing. There was this little like patch of fuzz on my chest.
And look at you now, an E5.
Yeah,
Living large.
Promotable.
All right. Promotable.
Yeah.
Good point.
As
Good
soon as
point.
the coronavirus ends, I'll go to ALC and done deal.
God bless. Okay, right on. So, moving forward through, right? Talk to me about when college entered the picture. When did that happen?
Okay. College entered the picture when I realized that going to the board wasn't enough as far as correspondence courses was concerned. I had killed all of those by the time I was in E3 because I had more than enough time in Korea. I had completed SSD1. I maxed out my volunteer hours, so I have my volunteer service medal. I had been to already at that point 3 special schools. And so that kind of started to wear out. I became a board baby at a specialist. I started going to the board a lot, and that's because I wanted to promote to E5 at 3 years.
Right.
And so after going to the board so many times, and I'm still with the same SAR major, the same first SARs, and they don't even look at my ARB anymore.
They have it up here.
Like, we know, Luhan, we know, And so I started to think, I was like, okay, moving forward, I needed something extra. And my education on the civilian sector lacked. And so I figured it would behoove me now while I'm young to start working on my degree. And it wasn't so much so that I wanted to get a degree. It was just I wanted to say I was in college, because I didn't really have time. Field artillery, the first word field should be a dead giveaway. We are always in the field. Right. And so there was no, sorry, can I step away for a second? I have to write a paper, And so it got to the point where I realized I was a sergeant promotable, and I was going to become a staff sergeant very shortly after. And so getting your first look at 7, there's a gap of time. And so I decided to transfer into the reserve and go to school full time. And I chose nursing. If I'm being honest, job security.
Yeah.
It was a job security decision at that point. And so that's kind of majority at the end of the day what led into my passion into going for school. Okay,
right on. And while maintaining a 4.0, right?
Yes. I think I actually surprised myself with that one. I've always had at least above a 3.5. I graduated high school with a 4.0. I graduated Commandant's List in BLC. I graduated Distinguished Honor Grad in AIT. So I kind of wanted to keep the same energy, throughout whatever I do. I want to be the best. Exactly. And in field artillery, it's a lot of men. So you really have to be number one to even be looked at or noticed or, accepted, I guess. And so I knew I had to be the best. I knew I was like, okay, if I keep this 4.0, nobody can say a word. Like, let's do it.
So were you ever a section chief?
Yes, yeah. I was. My last year at Bragg, I was able to be a section chief, and I can't describe the experience that I gained, the pride in having my own FDC. It's, oh my gosh. Me and my soldiers, we were the best. We were the best. We took top FDC, and we compete with our sister battalion in basically to see who's better. And of course, you know, every section gets their chance, and we took top FDC that year. So that was 2017, took top FDC. And after that, I was like, all right, cool. Now I just got to keep that going. Can't lose now.
Nice, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, a lot of my really good friends were all field artillery. Just a great bunch of guys. Like their personality and their high spirits, man, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So, let me ask you this. How was the experience of being probably the only female in your section and platoon, I would assume, right?
Yes.
So how was that experience? I mean, so it's a brand new MOS. It's opened up to females, right? Mm-hmm. You join, so you theoretically kind of pioneer that little piece, right?
Yeah.
Now you're in a combat designated MOS. Mm-hmm. You're doing field artillery, which is no small task, right? And no. you're having to compete and kind of hold up the or pull the gender lines, if you can say that, right?
Yes.
So how was that experience for you?
The experience overall, I can say, was knowledgeable. However, it varied. So I remember graduating AIT, there was, I want to say about 10 or 11 females that had all just entered the field artillery world. I'm talking all of 13 series. And so all 11 of us, 10 or 11 of us, we kind of stuck together. So upon graduation, we all get dished out. Everybody went somewhere new. And so of course I ended up at Fort Hood. And when I got to Fort Hood, I won't rat my battalion out like that, but there was no female latrine.
Right.
There wasn't even a bathroom that said female on it. And we would have to carry, I mean, you learn this in basic, you have your little notepad, you know? So I'd pull out my notepad and I would take a piece of tape and I would tape female on it after I had a male go in the bathroom and make sure nobody was there. And if you didn't, you were walking all the way back to the battalion from the motor pool, or you were walking next door to the ACS building. And so that was definitely interesting. I got tested on a lot of things immediately, like taking the belly plate off of a track. Mm-hmm. That is not supposed to be a one-person task, but that day it was, just to make sure that I could do this job, you know? And so that was fun. That was very exciting. You know, formation was extremely late, thanks to me. But I got it off.
I was gonna say, but you got it.
Yeah, I got it off. So that's what matters. And of course, over time, at first it was very lonely because I was the only female that I graduated with that came to Fort Hood, but there was a couple females that were already there. They were PFCs at the time. And so even I could even say, even trying to intermingle with the females that had just got there the year prior, yeah, that was even difficult because they had already earned their right or their way to say that, yeah, they had already been intermingled and they knew everything and everyone. And so for me, being the only one coming in 45 days before my first deployment, I had an extremely difficult time. But once, I would say about 3 months in, they were my family. I mean, I had got there so late in the game before that deployment that I didn't even get to put myself in connexes. I flew with it, so that was cool. But yeah, I mean, so that kind of branched over into Korea, and you know, spent time in Korea and learned a lot more. And then, of course, transitioning to Fort Bragg. That was my last duty station. A lot more welcoming, a lot more intermingled. At that point, it had already been a couple years that females were involved. But I get to my battalion, same situation. There was 3 females. I was the senior specialist. I showed up to Bragg as a specialist, and there was a PV2, a PFC, and then one other specialist, but she worked for battalion. So I never really saw her at the battery level. Right. But that was a lot more acclimated to females, and they were very welcoming. And then I was the first female NCO in my battery. So I kind of took on a whole, with what I had thought I had overcome, it was like starting from the bottom again. You know, now you have to prove that you're a good NCO, you know, and that you can lead troops and that you know enough to make sure that your soldiers are squared away. And
Right.
and so that was a challenge in and of itself, but definitely one I was ready for. And here we are. Here we are.
That is such a cool story. You know, like, so the lessons you must have learned going through the whole thing, like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, and so one thing I always loved about the military, right? So I've been in two different branches, and both of them have the same thing when it comes to being able to kind of comfortably, uncomfortably push you to that next level. You know what I mean? Over and over, and you really get to find out what kind of an individual you are, right? Like, do you focus under pressure? Do you fold under pressure? Do you know, like that kind of stuff. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
God, I mean, hats off to you. That's cool. That's so cool. So let's go back to your first deployment, Korea, right? Okay. And I remember from our conversation earlier, you mentioned that was one of your most favorite spots to be. Is that right?
Yes.
So you were in Korea, what, 2015?
15. Yes, 2015. Okay. We left Memorial Day, 2015. And oh my gosh. I mean, of course, with deployment, it's a lot of emotions. You know what I'm saying? I was 18 years old, you know, my first time really not being away from home, but when I say home, I mean America. First time leaving America. And I was doing it with a bunch of people I had really not known very well. But when I got there, I mean, the culture there, the food, the people. I mean, I learned so much. I traveled. I got to see things that that you see on TV and you're like, oh, I would like to go there someday, you know? And so I got to do a lot. I met a lot of amazing people. Like even some of my the Katusas that we worked with, which are the ROK Army soldiers. So they're in the Korean Army, but they wear our uniform and they show up and work with us. And they kind of lead the way when you first get there. They show you the do's and don'ts, and then they work with you after that, hand in hand. So even some of the Katusas I was working with, Sue, like I'm still cool with them. I mean, great people. They showed us around. They showed us all the cool spots to eat, you know, the 9-story mall. That's always exciting. You know, you can't, what female's going to say no to a 9-story mall? Like, you know, so, but it was great. I mean, I went a lot of places. I saw a lot of things and I made a lot of memories there, and I would definitely go back.
So speaking of a memory, all right, I want to know what the backstory is to this. So give me 1 second.
Okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Do you see that?
Oh my God.
So tell me what the story is behind this, because it looks to me like there's a lot of smiles going on, right?
Yes.
Knowing it's 2015 December-ish, so I'm assuming that's over in Korea. Is that right?
Actually, that was AIT in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Oh, and that's an even better story. Okay, so let's go on there.
Wow. Okay, that picture was taken at the Chow Hall in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, right next to the schoolhouse. It was the day before graduation. We were all about to graduate AIT. We were all excited, you know, ready to go. And my battle buddy pulled out her phone. It was snowing, but the snow was sticking this time. Like, it wasn't blowing away because it's real windy there. And so my battle buddy pulls out her phone, and that was one of the other females that I was there with. Her name's Eileen. And I just remember it being a really good day. Like, we had just finished chow. We were about to go back to the barracks and start, you know, getting our ASUs ready for graduation. And we were all just so excited that we were done, you know, because that last day of AIT, everybody kind of hangs out and talks. And, you know, we all talk about, oh man, this sucked and that sucked. And it's so cold. I can't wait to leave here. Like, talking about where we're going to be PCSing to after this, and trying to make sure we all stay in contact, you know, making our group chats and whatever. Yeah. And so you're never allowed to have your phone. So that was one time where we had a phone and we were all together, and we snapped that picture. And even to this day, we'll send that picture to each other. Like, you remember times, you know? And so, wow, that was a good memory. Very good memory. That's awesome.
See, and it's weird. So I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I have a 12-year-old son, right? I'm a little old. Hence the bald head. It's not by choice. But my son, right? Because when he's known is military, right? So I have my brothers all joined after me, right? And I have friends who are obviously become family, right? As you do, right? As it happens, and it's always been just constant aunts and uncles that are military, right? Let me share stories, and as you share stories, you usually talk about the fun times, but you also take a lot of pride in the not so fun times, right? And that really threw off my son. He was like, how are you guys so proud of the shitty times, right?
Yeah.
I said, you know what, son? I don't know. It's one of those kind of like psychology, sociology type things where, like, you know what? Well, this one time we were out there and it was like -5 degrees. Oh yeah, well we were over here and it was -20,000 degrees. And all we had were just, and it just like keeps on going. That's so crazy because like you go through all that and during that moment it's like, man, this shit sucks. And at the very end, you look back and it's like, oh, I did that, okay, and then you keep on moving through. That's interesting. So where are you at in your life right now, right? In terms of military, in terms of career, etc. And what's the plan to go forward?
Okay, so right now, I'm still going to school to be a nurse. Still have a couple more years of that. So thank goodness it's almost over. And as far as the military is concerned, I'm kind of at a stop hold right now, and that's thanks to our dear friend Corona, COVID-19. Thank you for coming and joining us.
Yeah, right.
So that kind of put a hold on a lot of things. So as everybody knows, I'm a 13 Juliet right now. However, the reserve doesn't have combat arms, so I had to make a business decision. And I chose to be a 27 Delta. And so I was supposed to leave for AIT actually on the 24th of this month. But because of the current situation, everything's frozen. Nobody's going anywhere. So unfortunately, I won't be able to attend AIT this summer. I do have a tentative date for May 15th, but we all know everything's kind of up in the air right now. And once I've completed AIT, I'm straight shot to ALC so that I can pick up Staff Sergeant. Can't wait. And so that's pretty much the short-term goals at this point is to make it to AIT. Long-term, however, definitely to finish my degree. And I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place at this point, deciding long-term what I want to do as far as the military is concerned. And that's because, well, my dream would be to be a drill sergeant and then be the first female field artillery sergeant major. Okay. But considering things are constantly changing, minds are constantly changing, I could very well really like being a nurse and decide to commission or drop a warrant officer packet. So at this point, that's pretty much tentative, but it's all in the works. So whatever it is, it's still going to involve the military. I will retire, but I just don't know exactly which way I'm going to be just yet.
Hey, but having options is a really good thing. A really good thing. Like I have a mentor of mine, right, who used to poke fun at me all the time because I would always say, I love options, right? I'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Mm-hmm. Everything I did was always like I don't want to say domino effect, more like a chess game, right? Put my pieces where I want them to go, and then kind of just see what's going to open up, and then make my decision with the amount of information I have at that moment.
Exactly.
I'm rolling forward, so that's not a bad plan. And actually, after this video is over, right? I have a friend of mine who is a drill sergeant, right? Female, she's awesome. She's a hardcore gym rat. Like she is the shit, right? If you want me to put you guys in contact, let me know. Maybe she can give you a little bit more inside look as to how that kind of path would play out. Okay.
Yes,
so
I would appreciate.
Remind me about that afterwards if you want that. Okay.
Yes, please.
Right on. So have you dropped into the reserve already, or are you about to transition to the reserve?
I dropped into the reserve April 5th of last year. So I'm a couple days away from my first year in the reserve. But I only did a try one because if we're being honest, we know that when you see something, you can't take it for face value.
Yeah, man.
So I was a little hesitant about the reserve, and that's because I'm sorry, active Army is my preference. Always has, always will be. But I was a little hesitant about the reserve, so I did the try one. And so I'm coming up on my year, so I'm pretty sure they're going to ask me to write an evaluation on how I thought it went. Right. And I'm not going to lie, it's been an amazing experience, still being able to participate in my drill weekends. And actually, they're a little more often than I expected. We're actually gone for 2 weeks at a time, twice a year, which I'm grateful for. If I could, I would be gone a lot more than that. But it's been a nice fit. It's like a glove. I'm able to do what I need to do in school and still take no breaks in service and continue to progress. So I don't know, it works. It works right now.
Well, let me give you this tidbit of advice. So I've been active, I've been reserve, right? During my reserve time, I used to love using that for travel, right? Because there'd be a lot of times where they're like, hey, this unit over here is going to be doing a training mission over in Germany, or this unit over here is going to be getting a small deployment to Japan or whatever. They need volunteers, right? It's like, I'll take a break on college and all that for a little while and go make some /see the world kind of thing. But it took me to it took me to Italy, Germany, France, Spain, Kuwait, Japan. It took me it's again 17 years. Like in that piece for the reserve spot, it took me everywhere. It gave me a nice needed break from college, and then more stories to add to the bank,
Right, I agree.
Okay, so how is it being dual military?
Dual military relationship?
Yeah, so because your husband serves, is that right? Or was he just the son of a recruiter and didn't serve?
No, he was the son of a recruiter. He joined the Army. We're divorced now. Okay. Still best friends, but he joined the Army and was a 15 Fox. Okay. And so that's dual military. Honestly, I can say the Army was very accommodating when it came to the dual military relationship. I mean, we had such different MOSs that, we were always gone at different times, and being at Bragg, it's the center of the universe. If you don't know. So, we're always gone. And so if I wasn't somewhere, he was somewhere, but they were always accommodating. It was never a time that I had to worry, other than deployments or missions, that I had to worry about, us being split up. And I was very grateful for that at the time. We were able to push each other because there was things that he learned, and on his side that I wasn't very familiar with. And there was things that I learned in combat arms that he wasn't very familiar with. So we were kind of able to guide each other. And it was a healthy competition because he joined, 5 or 6 months before I did. So of course, every rank up to specialist, he got before me. And so of course, when we're both specialists, and we're like, all right, this is it. Like, who's going to go to the board first? Who's going to get their piece stat? And so it was healthy. It was nice. It was, of course it had its downs, being dual military. You've also kind of got to keep in mind that when I'm home, most of the time he was gone. Yeah. And that's because there's only so many training areas, and when one is reserved, you come home and somebody else goes. So that kind of, I definitely would say, was a downside of the dual military relationship. Was we never got to see each other. And when we did, it was great, and there was a lot to do, but it was more difficult than I would say being in a civilian, being with a civilian, because for the most part, they're always home, Right. Come home, they're there. And, but at the same time, I couldn't have asked for an easier relationship. We understood each other. It was never, we hardly ever talked about the Army, and that I think was also a benefit of being in a dual military relationship. When you're at work all day long and you do what we do, and sometimes you're not coming home till 7 o'clock at night, and you get there at 5 in the morning, you don't want to come home and talk about your entire day all over again, Yeah. And so it made it really convenient to understand that, like, hey, it's Monday. We were both in the motor pool, so we don't have to talk about it. Like, you might have been on the other side of the installation, but we were both PMCSing. I know what it looks like. You know what it looks like. Yeah. Like, we don't got to talk about it, and same thing. Like, how was the field? I have nothing good to say. I literally have nothing good to say. So I didn't ever have to talk about it. And that's because he understood. Like, oh yeah, I feel that. It was raining. Yeah, did you take your e-tool? And I'm like, yeah, I brought my e-tool, you know. I'm good. Yeah, dig a trench, fine. You know, and so it was just, it made it funny, because even in the hard times, even in all the crap you're experiencing, and the rain and the sleet and snow and tornadoes and whatever could present itself, I was able to kind of joke about it at home as well. Like, yeah, well, last time I was in the field, it was raining, so yeah. At least it was dry for you. Like, you didn't have to dig a trench. Like, that's cool.
Why are you whining?
Yeah, yeah, I'm confused. Why are you complaining? Like, I was in the field for 45 days. You were only in the field for 12, so I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? Like, well, I go for longer. Well, I'm gone more. You know, so like, it made it amusing. It made it funny. Whereas, like, sometimes when you have to re-explain that to a civilian, you kind of find yourself getting mad again because they don't understand what you're saying. You have to explain every little thing, and you're like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. It sucked. That's it. So, but yeah, I mean, I dual military was nice. It was nice while it lasted.
Yeah, I've always heard two different sides of it. You know, like, there's a lot of pros, a lot of cons, and it just depends on what that mix is. You know, so I've got some friends who are dual military, and they lasted forever. I got other friends who just don't, just like normal relationships, you know, on this other side. The only thing I kind of attribute it to is, like, I would assume, like, being in a hospital setting where you're two doctors or two nurses or two police officers or two whatever, you know, and it's like one of those kind of like shift things.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, kind of thing. So going back to the present, right? In all honesty, how hard do you think your AIT is going to be for 27 Delta, which is paralegal?
From a curriculum standpoint, I can't imagine it being that difficult, considering they're teaching 18-year-olds the same content with this much experience, whereas I kind of have an idea of how an Article 15 might work.
Fair point.
Yeah, so curriculum-wise, I would say I'm not at all worried about it. However, I am worried about my attitude towards it, if I'm going to be honest.
You're going to bring that combat attitude.
Yes. And, you know, we're from the same world, but different parts. And I think for me, I kind of hold this, not dislike for other MOSs, but naturally, I mean, considering the situations I've been in as compared to when they go to the field, they're staying at the, you know, Hilton Garden Inn, and they conduct, you know, business hours from 8 to 4. And then after that, they're off to go to Applebee's. Whereas like me, like, I'm sleeping in my Humvee with my ACH on, like, okay, you know? So I think I'm going to have a hard time being accepting of the other MOSTs and their standpoint, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm coming from S1, and oh, okay, that's cool. And so I think I do need to work on having a more open mind about the MOS and what it entails, and I'm of course going to do my best. I'm going to apply myself, and I'm going to set the standard and withhold the standard. However, I think coming from combat arms into a POG MOS, it's going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard. But I'm excited. I can say that even though I still have my doubts, I'm not going to lie and say I don't have them anymore. But I have learned a lot in the paralegal department, things that I didn't know that actually targeting and paralegal go hand in hand, because I can't launch a rocket without getting a clearance from our paralegals saying like, oh yeah, you know, it's not against the law to blow that up, so help yourself, you know, or like, according to the laws of war and the Geneva Convention, you're A-okay. So I've been able to take my 13 Juliet knowledge in targeting and missiles and rockets and distances and, you know, and degree of demolishing over into the paralegal world and kind of teach them. So, and they've taught me like when it's okay, when it's not okay, what's legal, what's not legal. So I think it's just going to broaden my horizon in knowledge as far as becoming an even better 13 Juliet at the end of the day. So
you're gonna walk around there and you're gonna be the badass of the whole thing. Like,
I'm trying.
they're gonna part the seas and just move around. That's sort of
Literally, yeah. I can say that happened when I got to my unit now, because I mean, considering coming from a line battery, like I came from a line battery where if you see an officer, probably not the best thing. Like, oh, why are you here? What did we do? Like, you need me to do something. Oh, okay. And then they walk away, they go back to battalion and they do their thing, you know, and like now I'm surrounded by officers, and it's not that I don't know how to talk to them, but I'm constantly on my P's and Q's, you know, like I don't care how many times I talk to you, I'm going to be at attention and you're going to have to tell me relax twice before I just stand there with my hands in my pocket. Like, I don't know, you know, whereas like coming into that world, everybody just, it's a first name basis for them. And that's, you know what I mean? And so it was a huge transition where I was coming from, you know, never really having those encounters to now. That's the only encounter I have. So,
yeah, I feel you. So what, from your life experience so far, right? What would you say is the, I don't know, the most that the Army has taught you? Like, what has the Army taught you? What are you grateful for that the Army has given you or taught you or had you experience, etc.?
I'd say the most valuable lesson I learned in the Army and am still learning to this day is resilience. I would like to have thought that I was a resilient person my whole life, considering we all have our own trials, you know, but being in the Army, I never realized what I was capable of, not only mentally, but physically and emotionally. I mean, you want to talk about trying all of those departments at one time on degree 1000. I didn't realize, you know, how important resilience was. And it's so looked past, you know, it really is. It's kind of, it's looked over. Resilience is really looked over. And I think I'm beyond grateful. I've learned a lot of amazing things. I've learned of a lot of things that I wish I hadn't. But being resilient and being around people who have experienced things that I haven't experienced yet definitely have saved my life. And with that, I've been able to turn around and do the same. And so I definitely think that's the most valuable lesson I've been able to take away from the Army.
Ain't that the truth? You know, like no matter what goes on, right? Like I have, so I'm a recruiter, right? I live out in the civilian area. I'm not on a base.
Right.
Neighbors are, you know, dentists and, you know, regular old folks, right?
Right.
Lots of panic, lots of, I don't want to say lack of confidence or pride, but
mm-hmm.
you can tell that they haven't had, you know, a harder time, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You know? And so with myself and my family, it's like, nah, we'll be all right. You know, like we're, you know, no matter how tough things get, we're pretty positive we're gonna bounce back. You know, like we've been through work and we're fine. You know, so that's definitely.
Definitely. I think that's a sentence I use almost every day. I've been through worse.
So let me ask you this. What do you miss about being active duty?
God.
Or do you miss anything? I mean,
I miss it all. I miss all of it. I miss my battle buddies. I miss our conversation. I miss that not having to explain myself to everybody, not feeling like I stick out really bad, not feeling like saying outstanding is weird. I mean, there's obvious things that nobody misses. I don't miss Motor Pool Monday, okay?
Yeah, nobody misses that.
But I just miss being around my battle buddies. It's a family. It really is. I spent more time with my company than I did with my family. You know what I mean? You see them all day, every day. You go through the same things. You go through the suck together and you embrace it as a family. Like, I miss the camaraderie. I miss the collectiveness. I miss waking up and going for a run that I didn't want to go on.
Isn't that ironic?
You would not believe. I'm not a good like speed runner, but distance all day long, let's do it. And so like I'm in the heart of, of the Army, brag. And I'd wake up and I'd be like, we're only supposed to run like a couple times a week. We do it every morning here, like every day. And like I used to get bugged, and now I think about it and I'm like, what I would give to be on ends right now at 4 a.m, 32 degrees outside in the shorts and the t-shirt and going on a run, like what I would give. You know what I mean? Or like moments like when you find out you're going to the field in the dead of winter and you're like, who decided that? Because all summer we were fine, but now, okay. And I think about it and I'm like, man, it's really cold out here and I get to wear like as much clothes as I want. Whereas like before it was definitely like, no, you could take that off, downgrade. Like I miss that. I miss it all. I miss room inspection. I miss my soldiers. When I tell you they were my kids, they're my children. I mean, I was responsible for their health and welfare 24/7 all the time. I mean, I miss not having to explain myself. I miss the values of the people around me. Whereas like now I question everyone and everything, and I hate going to Walmart, and I, like little things. I don't know. I miss them. I miss my battle buddies.
Well, if you ever want to go back active duty, I know a good recruiter.
I actually might be calling you.
Oh man. But that's not awkward. All those moments, right? They build that mental toughness that you were talking about, right? Yeah. And also, I mean, you can't go to Fort Bragg and then not have stories like that. Like that's what the reputation is built on. I mean, it's Fort Bragg,
yeah. Even if you haven't been there, you've been there like vicariously through somebody else.
Yeah, for real. Okay. Well, that's almost everything I want to talk about. I have one last thing for you. Okay. So a lot of civilians, especially those who have no prior knowledge of military, right? No family, no friends, etc. All they see is what's on TV and all that kind of good stuff, right? So if somebody was on the fence as to whether to join, not join, or even consider joining, right? What would be your advice to them?
Okay. My advice to somebody on the fence, I definitely would say it's something, and it might not be the best advice, but it's not something that you can kind of want. To me, I've seen kind of want in the Army, and they kind of get out. And so I think for me, telling people just like the raw truth. I mean, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to have fun. You're not going to have fun at first. It's going to be, you're going to have the oh shit moment every day, but the memories that you make, the people that you meet, the lessons that you learn, you're taken care of for the rest of your life. I mean, and you don't even have to know the person. You feel it. You feel their energy. You know what I mean? And I have made amazing connections, not only in the Army, but in the civilian world. You know what I mean? I mean, just having that conversation, wherever Walmart even, and you get into that discussion with the dude in line who's like, wearing his hat because they all have them now for some reason. And you're like, oh, okay, where were you at? And you get into that conversation, and it creates for travel. It creates for memories. It gives you a foundation that you could not get anywhere else. You grow up quickly. You become self-sufficient, responsible. I mean, your time management will be impeccable. I could tell you that much. That's probably the reason I'm so successful in college, is because I can literally time manage down to like the minute what needs to happen and when it needs to happen. And it was just an amazing foundation. And foundation is something to have such a rock solid forever, always going to be there. Foundation, you can't get that anywhere else. You can't get that anywhere else. They don't get mad at you because they don't get mad at you and stop talking to you and being your friend. You know what I'm saying? This is a family. It's not a sorority where, you know, you didn't wear pink, it's Wednesday, you can't hang out with us. No, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you messed up and we're going to jump on you just like your mom jumped on you. And then you're going to learn your lesson and we're going to come back and we're going to do it again tomorrow, except we're good. We're family. It's a family that's forever long and they're everywhere. And so that's, I guess, the gist of what I would say would be my advice. You want a family? Come over. Here we are. Open arms.
Right on. Very well said. We appreciate that. So thank you. So again, ladies and gentlemen of the community, all right, this was Sergeant Jasmyn Marquez. I'm sorry, I know I'm Spanish, but at the same time I don't speak Spanish, so it is what it is. Thank you very much for sharing your life with us. All right, we truly appreciate it. I hope that your future goes out well. All right, you seem like you're going to be mentally tough enough to handle anything. So I truly appreciate you allowing me to meet you and share that with the world. So thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.